Hello everyone. Welcome to lecture 7 of the BSc IT Python programming series. Today's topic is tuples. So let's get started. On the first slide, we have our topic for tuples, which is tuples and accessing values in tuples. Moving forward to the first point we have, which is tuples are a sequence of values and they are immutable. It means that through indexing, we cannot change the values of the tuple. If we try to change a value, it will error out, and that can be seen in the example 3 here, where we have a tuple t, and we're trying to assign character A at 0th position, which errors out saying that type error object doesn't support item assignment. Moving to the second point, it says that I should write tuples. Tuples are indexed by integers, so in that respect, they are more like lists. In that case, I would say that since they are indexed and more like lists, we can use indexing to get slices of tuples or get a particular value at a given index. Moving on to the third point where we have a few examples of how we can declare tuples. So first example is we have a variable t and it is being assigned a tuple where the tuple starts with a round bracket, contains the values, and ends with a round bracket. Another example which we have here is that it doesn't have the round brackets, but here the values are separated by commas. So this is also a valid example or valid way to declare a tuple. And similarly, if we move ahead and we want only one value, we can write that value and we need to put a comma at the end in order to emphasize that this is a tuple. And if you want to use round bracket, same can be done, but we need to include comma inside the bracket in order to tell Python that this is a tuple. If we do not include a comma and include round brackets, then this would be an expression. So be careful when you are having only one value and using round brackets to declare a tuple. Moving forward to the next point, we have built-in function tuple can be used without any parameter to create an empty tuple. So what it is saying that if we use function tuple um, and we don't pass any arguments to it, it will create an empty tuple. Next is if the argument is a sequence such as string, list, or tuple, the result is a tuple with the elements of the sequence. So what it means that let's see an example. So the first example is here we have a tuple function and to this tuple function I pass a sequence. So here this sequence is a string and as per this point in the output we should get all the characters which are separated into a tuple. So here we'll be having A, B, C and D separated into a tuple. This is our output. Last point here we have is most list operators works on tuples and slicing too. So yes, um, list operators like plus, star, and slicing also works on tuples. Let's see an example, few examples here, which I've listed for all the points which are covered here. So in the first example, we can see that we have a tuple T and it has A, B, C, D, E values. If we try to access the value at index 0, uh, we can access it because this operation of indexing works on tuples, and as an output, we get character A. Further, when we move to the second example, we are going to see how slicing works on a tuple. So here, same way as a list, we specify the starting and the end index separated by colon inside the square brackets, and the output would be the elements starting from the index, but not up till the end index, but it would go only up till end index -1. So this is how it works in Python. Next we have assignment, which we are trying to where we are trying to assign a character to index 0. Remember guys here that since tuple is immutable, we will not be able to perform this operation and the error which we get is type error. Object doesn't support item assignment. Moving forward to the next slide for tuple assignment. First point here, says that in traditional programming, we have to use swap variable to interchange the values of variable a and b. Sorry. So let's see a first example here that how a swap uh, are performed in traditional programming languages. So mostly they use another variable in which first the value is loaded and then the value is assigned to the first variable and the value contained by temporary variable is assigned to the second variable. So that's how the value is swapped. But let's go back to the point and continue with the theory. But in Python, we have tuple assignment which we can use to interchange the value. Yes, so in Python, there is a unique way to change the, or I should say, swap the values of the variables. So here we have, we want to change the values of a and b, and this is the statement a comma b is equals to b comma a. Through this statement, we can the value of variable a and b will be changed. Let me explain how the evaluation of this expression is done. So first, we will fetch the value of b, then we will fetch the value of a. After this, what we will do is we will assign the value of b to a, and then the value of a will be assigned to b. So this is how swapping of variables work. I'm not sure whether this is still clear or not, but if you're still not clear or you don't or you're unable to understand it fully, like I wasn't when I was trying to make this slide, I was also not able to understand this fully. So I have an extra link here in the notes section, which you can refer and improve your understanding about how internally this tuple assignment works and how the values are swapped. So please do check this link out. It is really good and it will improve your understanding further. Moving on to the third point, it says that in tuple assignment, the left side is a tuple of variables. So here we can see this is a tuple of variables and the right side is a tuple of expressions. So these are expressions. All the values on the right side are evaluated before assignment. So that's what I said earlier, that first we will evaluate all the values on the right hand side and then we will assign those values to the left hand side variables. Last point here we have is if the number of variables on left side are less or more than the variables on the right side, then the assignment statement will error out. So another example towards the end of the slide we have here is that a tuple assignment again, but in this case we see that on the right side there are three values and on the left side there are only two values. So in that case we will get an error which is value error, too many values to unpack, because on the right side we have too many values and on the left side we only have two variables. So this error is quite intuitive. What if on the left side we have two variables but on the right side we have only one value? So in that case what would be the error? So here we can see that the error would be not enough values to unpack, expected to got one. So this error is also quite intuitive. And yes, let's move ahead to the next slide. Next slide is on the topic of tuples as return values. First point is a function can return multiple values in the form of a tuple. So let's take an example of div mod function, which takes two arguments and returns a tuple So let's refer example one. In example one, we see that div mod takes two values, which is 7 and 3, and it returns a tuple as a result. So the first value is 2, which is the quotient, and second value is 1, which is the remainder. Moving on to the second point, we can define custom functions to return multiple values in form of tuples. So as an example, let's take a function, and in that how can we return a tuple is being exemplified here. So we just need to specify multiple values which are separated by comma, and then it will be returned as a tuple. So this is how we return values as tuples. Moving forward to the next slide, here we have variable length argument tuple. So what does the first point say? It says that functions can take variable number of arguments and a parameter name starting with a star gathers arguments in a tuple of parameter name. So what do I mean by this? So let's define a function which takes a parameter args, but here we can see that it is preceded by a star, which means that any number of positional arguments which are being passed to this function will be grouped together in a tuple. And when we try to print args, we will get a tuple as an output. So let's call this function, pass a couple of values to this function, and let's see what's the output is. So in the output, we can see that it prints the tuple, and it these are the values which were passed to this function. So now we can see that the values which are passed to this function were grouped into a tuple and returned as an output. Not returned, but we did print it as an output. Um, if we want to pass, or if we want to I should say, use the same way of passing a tuple to div mod. How can that be done? So here we can see that T is a sequence and it is preceded by a star. So this is a valid argument to div mod. And when we pass this to div mod, it will return us 2, 1. Just to note here that for all the examples which I am using in my slides, I'm using it from book Think Python. So please do refer it if you have any doubts or need more details. Let's go ahead. Next slide is on basic tuple operations. So the first point is, like strings, tuples are immutable too. In that case, any operation on the tuple will result in a new tuple. Yes. The second point here is the basic operation on the tuples are length, concatenation, repetition, membership, and iteration. So these operations are listed down here in a table with their Python expression and the result. So the first operation is len. Here we are trying to find the length of the tuple and the result is 3. Length is length of a tuple can be found using the len variable. Next we have the concatenation. So concatenation of the two tuples is carried out by using the addition operator, and as a result we see that a unified tuple and all the values are there together. Third we have is the repetition. So for this we use the star operator followed by the number of times we want to repeat the tuple. So here we can see that we have a tuple with single element which is high, and then the star operator and then 4. I think this image might be a bit small. Let me resize it. Yes, star 4, and in the output we can see that the um, high string has been repeated 4 times. Further, we have the membership operator, which is in. So here we are checking that whether 3 exists inside the tuple. So as a result, we get true as an output, which means that the 3 does exist in the tuple, and this is how we use the membership operator. Last is the iteration on tuple, where we use the membership operator in with the for construct. So here we can see that um, the iteration will be carried out over the sequence, which is 1, 2, 3, and as an output we will receive all of the items inside the tuples. So the result would be 1, 2, and 3, and each of the number would be on a new line because we did not specify end as a null or a space. So yes, I think 1 point was remaining here, 1 or 2 points. Yes, concatenation can be done using plus. We did go over this, and repetition can be done using star. Also, we also covered this. Next, we had membership and iteration operation can be done using in. Yes, so we did cover all of the 5 operations, basic tuple operations which can be performed. Lastly, we have built-in tuple functions. For this for this slide, I'm very sorry I have not included any pictures for examples or any code references, because if I had, I would have done that. The slide would have become too congested and too many details would be there in one slide. So what I've done is I have included links for your readings, for further readings, and also examples are included in the links. So please do check out these links when you are studying through the slides. Sorry, when you are on this particular slide. So let's get going with the first point. So first point is on the CMP function. CMP function compares the tuple values and returns the result. So yes, so to CMP function we pass two tuples. Um, it might contain any kind of object, may it be number, a string, or any custom defined data type. So it will return the result based on the behavior of the CMP function, or there might be any, not any, but custom way to define how the CMP function should behave. In short, CMP function is used to compare two tuples. Next, we have the len function. So len function, as we saw on the slide earlier, it is used to get the len of the tuples. Next, we have the max function. So what max function does is it returns the max value amongst the tuple elements. So this is quite intuitive, and same is the case for min. Lastly, we have tuple function, which is used to convert a list to tuple. So on the first slide, we did observe the tuple function, and here if we pass a sequence, it will convert it into tuple. So this is true for the case of list and strings both. Okay, so guys, that's it for this lecture, and thank you very much for watching this video. I will upload these slides on my GitHub account. Please subscribe to this channel for more new videos on Python programming for BSTIT, and please do like the video if you like the content, and if you do not, please dislike and also leave constructive feedback for the video. So it would help me to improve the content further and resolve any of your queries if you have. Thank you so much and have a nice one. Bye for now.